Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Blaze Baking with Rach on this beautiful fall day. I'm so happy to have Lynda Loigman with us, streaming in from her kitchen. Hi, Lynda.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. Lynda is a good friend of the Blaze. We love her. You may remember her from, I think it was last month when Jenna interviewed her on Frontliners about the Matchmaker's Gift. I love this cover. I tried to wear earrings that match it a little bit. It's a little sparkly. Yeah.
I have a shirt that matches, but it's very springy. So I didn't wear my matching cover shirt.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard it before. The cover is beautiful. The book is fabulous. And we were just saying offline that Lynda's been doing so many awesome events in person and traveling, and that must be really fun. I'm going to read Lynda's bio for those of you that don't know exactly who Lynda is. And then we're going to talk about Matchmaker for sure. That's what I call it. But we're also going to bake the Tillie Cake. So let me just read you her bio. Lynda Cohen Loigman grew up in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. She received a BA in English and American Literature from Harvard College and a JD from Columbia Law School. Her debut novel, Two Family House, was a USA Today bestseller and a nominee for the Goodreads 2016 Choice Awards in Historical Fiction. Her second novel, The Wartime Sisters, was selected as a Women's World Book Club pick and a Best Book of 2019 by Real Simple Magazine. And now The Matchmaker's Gift is her third novel, and it just came out this fall. So welcome, Lynda.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
That was the official. And it's funny because when you read about how you went to law school and you were a practicing lawyer, well, I know you're I feel like that maybe comes up a little bit in The Matchmaker's Gift, which is a story of two women, a grandmother and a granddaughter. The granddaughter is a 1990s lawyer. The grandmother was a matchmaker. And I think about maybe you practicing law, if that influenced that part a little bit.
This is the first book where, because people ask me that all the time, like, how did you go from being a lawyer to being a writer? Which I think a lot of lawyers have. But this is the first book that I've used any of my legal memories, honestly. So this book follows, like you said, a woman. She's an immigrant. She comes to the Lower East Side in 1910, and she has this gift for seeing soulmates. And then her granddaughter has very inconveniently inherited the same gift, and it's not good for her, for the granddaughter, because she's a divorce lawyer. So I was a trust and estates lawyer. I never practiced divorce law, but trust and estates lawyers often get saddled with a lot of odds and ends, including prenuptial agreements, because they sometimes go hand in hand with estate planning. So I did work on some prenuptial agreements, and I worked on one kind of crazy one that I used as some inspiration for the one in this book. Yeah, it was like a guy, and it's like sort of semi-famous. He was pretty famous guy, and he married. It was his second, or I don't know what marriage it was. And she was like a 25-year-old model, and he was much older. And it was just very interesting.
I love that. I was thinking about that when I was reading it. So
yeah. I remember that she put her feet up on the conference table.
Okay.
And her fiance made her take them down.
Okay.
It was really weird.
Well, before we get baking, last book question before baking. You mentioned a little bit some of your legal knowledge that you use. What was really the inspiration for this book? Because I knew you've written other historical fiction, but how did this come to you?
Yeah, this book, I wrote this book during COVID, which so many of the books that we're all talking about now were written. But my daughter came home from college in March of 2020 because they closed the dorms and sent them all home. And hi, Renee. And she brought home her roommate, Adele, who we love. And Adele told me that her grandmother had been a matchmaker, an Orthodox Jewish matchmaker in New York, in Brooklyn. And she pulled up this article on her phone with a picture of her grandmother. And there was just something about that, just like the grandmother-granddaughter thing, the matchmaker thing. The book is not about Adele at all, but I just got it in my head that I wanted to write a matchmaker story. So I told my agent, I was working on another book at the time, and she really wanted me to put that. She and my editor wanted me to put the book I was working on aside and start the matchmaker book. Because they just wanted it. It's, it was like they had an appetite for it. And I guess I'll use cooking words now. Because, we were all so isolated and so disconnected. And it's really a story about connection. And so I think that's probably why they were just really wanting me. They wanted it. They wanted that story. They're like, write it, and give it to us first. So I did. And It was a lot of fun to write. It's a very, for people who've read it, it's like a joyful story. You know, it's a heartwarming story. Yeah. So my other books are a little more serious, and this one, it has so many similar themes and different things, but that feel, you know, close to my other books. But this one has like a spark of joy to it.
Did you go back to work on the book you were originally working on before Matchmaker, or no?
No. Yeah, I didn't. The next one's about a female pharmacist. My husband's great grandmother was a pharmacist, and she graduated from pharmacy school in 1921. So I'm taking some inspiration from some of the stories I've heard about her.
I love learning about where authors get their ideas from, especially authors of historical fiction like yourself. I think that's so cool. Well, speaking of, I always try to come up with some transitions here in the baking novel discussing, but really it's perfect that we're baking the Tillie Cake today, because your book does, you know, it's about a relationship between a grandmother and a granddaughter in some ways. And I asked you months ago to come on and bake the Tillie Cake because, as I said to you before, I had noticed that you baked this Tillie Cake when you posted on Instagram a long time ago.
I bake it all the time.
And so tell us who Tillie is, about your relationship, and about the cake.
Yeah. So Tillie is my grandmother. It's my mother's mother. Today is actually like a very special day, Rachel, to be with you, because it's actually, last night was my mother's yard site. My mother passed away 15 years ago. So I actually have her yard site candle lit in my kitchen right now. And Tillie outlived her daughter. She outlived my mother, but she passed away many years ago. But she lived until 92. So she knew my grandchildren. Like, she was around for a long time, and I was very close to her. She was a real pistol. She, like so many of her grandmothers, you know, she had no filter at all. But she was really like a beacon of unconditional love for her grandchildren. She was like everyone. Hi, Mindy. Like, everyone was the most beautiful, the most brilliant, the most talented, the most everything.
I had grandmothers like that.
Yeah. And she just had like a lot of things she would say, like her catchphrases. So in the book, in The Matchmaker's Gift, Sarah has a catchphrase, which is, "I see what I see and I know what I know." And that's not one of the things that Tillie used to say, but she had other things that she would say. So she used to say, "You're right, you're not wrong." Because it wasn't enough to just be right. You also had to be like not wrong. But we named a lot of things that she used to make after her. So there's Tillie Cake, and there's also, remember wishbone dressing? So there's Tillie bone dressing, which is just like the salad dressing that she used to make. So I don't know why when we started, but I remember from when I was really little that this cake was Tillie Cake. Like, I didn't call her Tillie, I called her Grandma, but like the things that she made all the time, we always stuck her name in front of them. So,
well, we call it Tillie Cake in my house. And in fact, I made it to bring over to a friend's house for the Jewish holidays. And I said, this is called the Tillie Cake. And everybody there was like, well, it has to be good. It's called the Tillie Cake. You know, it's this idea of Grandma Tillie or Nana Tillie. Yeah.
Yes. Everybody in my town, like all my friends know it, and they all make it. Like, everyone makes the Tillie Cake.
Well, it was your recipe. It's a sour cream chocolate chip cinnamon cake. That's how you would describe it, basically.
Yeah. My grandmother sometimes used to put nuts in the topping with the chocolate chips, but I stopped doing that many years ago because my kids never liked the nuts.
My husband's allergic to nuts, so
yeah. So we never do it with the nuts. And then in her later years, so it has sour cream in it. And in her later years, my grandmother, at some point, she switched to plain yogurt, like when she got kind of more health conscious.
Healthy Tillie Cake.
Yeah, but it wasn't really healthy. But, you know, it still had the same amount of sugar and chocolate.
Water.
But I don't know. She got into like the plain non-fat yogurt. I think there wasn't really Greek yogurt yet. That wasn't a thing yet. But Greek yogurt would work well too.
I've done that. So should I do the topping first, do you think?
You can. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right, maybe I'll just do that because it's ready. I have a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips already in here.
Yeah.
And to that in a bowl. And then to that, I'm going to add a quarter cup of sugar.
Now, before you do that, you know what I do? I don't have this in the recipe. Usually I take I sort of wet my hand and flick a little water on it. Like, it's not even a teaspoon. Like, to just get the chocolate.
I'm going on camera to do this.
Yeah, slightly damp. And then, like, the tiniest bit, because then the cinnamon and the sugar sort of sticks to the chocolate chips.
Perfect.
That's like my little tip.
A little Tillie tip there.
Yeah, a Tillie tip.
So we're gonna do a 1/4 cup of the sugar.
Yep.
And I think it's
Teaspoon of the cinnamon.
Teaspoon of the cinnamon. I have all my ingredients out. This is such a fun recipe to do, and it's a lot of stuff that people generally have in their pantries.
Yeah, you pretty much always have the stuff, except you might not have the sour cream. But today, so many people eat Greek yogurt all the time that you might even have the Greek yogurt. So that's why I'm saying, like, you know, you can definitely substitute.
That's a good idea. So I know you've already baked one at home, which I'm excited to see what that turns out, but I'm going to do this. So then our actual cake ingredients in a separate bowl. It's your pretty basic ingredients too. I have pre-measured up. It's 2 cups of flour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 1 bowl. I always call it a 1 bowl cake because I never use more than 1 bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, you melt butter in a bowl, so yeah.
Yeah, a stick of melted butter.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. My family's excited to eat this later today. The cup of sour cream, or you could use yogurt, right? Yeah. Okay. Got it all down. And then a cup of sugar.
Yep.
A teaspoon of vanilla. Or is it a half a teaspoon or?
I usually do a teaspoon. A full teaspoon, yeah. I love vanilla, so it doesn't, you know.
Me too. Yeah. And then you actually use baking soda and baking powder in here.
Yes. I never understand the chemistry of all that, but yeah, this cake has both, and then I think it has 2 eggs also.
Yes. So let me just do it's 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. So let me do that. Sorry. This is the chemistry part. To tell you the truth, I never understand the chemistry part either. I just do
what it says. Yeah.
Yeah. Do the directions. Do what Tillie says. I'm making sure I have my half. Yeah. Okay. So a half and 1.5. Yeah. And then the 2 eggs.
So Tillie used to bake this cake all the time, but my mom used to bake pies. My mom was a really good baker of pies, and she would make her own crust. And that was the one thing that my grandmother could never really seem to master. She used to get really frustrated because she was never good at like rolling out the crust and transferring it into my pan. And she used to get crazy with my mom. Like, why couldn't she do it?
That's so funny.
My mom could always do. Yeah. Yeah. I like to bake pie. I like to bake pies also, but I just remember it was one thing my grandmother just never had patience for baking a pie.
I could see that. I mean, with some grandmothers. I mean, I actually one other thing you have to add with the eggs too is a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I've learned how to make a lot of pies and pie crust through the show, and actually next month on the show we're having Amy Wallen on, who wrote a book called, I'll show it to you now, How to Write a Novel in 20 Pies.
Oh, awesome!
It's awesome. It's about writing novels, and it's about. We're gonna make a lemon. She knows Jenna. We're gonna make a lemon meringue pie, but she does this thing in the month of November, like NaNoWriMo, where people write. They complete a novel in a month. Hers is called NaNoPieMo, where every day in the month of November she makes a different pie.
Oh my God! Who does she?
I know. So I had to mention that now. But no, everybody kind of does have their thing. My grandmother, who was a wonderful cook and baker, taught me a lot, but it skipped over my mother because she never cooked or made anything.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Funny.
My mother didn't teach me to cook, really. She taught me to do the pie crust, but she didn't like me in the kitchen generally. Like, I taught myself. And it's funny because I feel kind of bad, but I don't think I really taught my daughter either. Like, she taught herself during COVID. Like, now she's a really good cook, but I didn't really teach her cooking so much either. Because, like, I just was used to doing it by myself. I guess my mother was too. I don't know. Though I think there was one incident where I got really upset because I watched my mother make those Swedish meatballs, which I used to love when I was little. But I don't know if people have the recipe for like the sort of like 1960s Swedish meatballs, and all the 1960s recipes are just like a jar of this and a can of that.
Jelly and a jar of ketchup and a jar of
right. So that's like a jar. It's like a jar of the Heinz chili sauce and a jar of jelly. And when I saw my mother put the jade grape jelly in with the meat, I thought it was the most disgusting thing I had ever seen. I think I screamed and I ran out of the kitchen. And after that, my mother was like, "You're not cooking with me."
It's all these stories of baking with your mother or your grandmother or your grandfather or whoever. And I don't know, I sensed a lot of that. I mean, it's a huge part of the book, of the Matchmaker's Gift, of the relationship between the granddaughter and the grandmother, for sure. Yeah.
There's something very poignant about that, and about things, just how they live on. And yeah, there's a scene in The Matchmaker's Gift after Sarah has passed away, and Abby, her granddaughter, goes back to her apartment, and she remembers that the night before she died, she said, I baked a babka for you and I put it in the freezer. And so she opens the freezer and she doesn't know if it will still be there because she knows her mother has like cleaned out the apartment a little bit, and it's still there. And she takes it home and she eats it. And it's like, I was crying when I wrote that part, because that's like, it's a very emotional thing to think about someone making something for you and it's the thing that survives them and you still have that taste on your tongue of them. And
I could cry thinking about it right now.
Yeah, like I get very teary because food is a very emotional thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I brought this, I just pulled this out before we went on air, but this is my mom's recipe box, and it's really old and really crummy and stained and gross. And it has like all these, it's a mess inside. But like when my mother died, she was in Florida with my dad, and it's 15 years. So she was in Florida. She went into hospice, and we thought we had like a lot of time, and we did. By the time I got down there, we didn't. But when my dad came up north with me and whatever, and I wanted to like clean out his house, and we were about to get on a plane, and he was like, do you want to take her jewelry? Do you want to take this? Do you want to take that? And I was like, no, I don't want to take anything. I'm not taking anything now. I'm just taking this. And I just went, and this is what I brought with me on the plane. Like, this is like the genie in the bottle. It's like, sometimes I'm like, Mom, are you there? like, hello? Are you like, I talk to it, because that's what it is. Like, that's how we remember our mothers and our grandmothers a lot of the time. I know you do with the clothing and the accessories too.
No,
those are all the things that last.
I know. I was just thinking, I'm going to a family party tonight and I'm going to wear a pin of my mother's because that's what you do. Yeah. Yeah. So wow, this is amazing. So wait, let me ask you a question back to baking. When you mix it all together, do you do it with the KitchenAid or do you do it by hand?
I don't even have a KitchenAid. Like, that's why I didn't want to bake on.
I'm going to cheat and do it with the KitchenAid.
Yes, it's how it works. I'm very curious.
Right. But it's
a nice one too. It's such a nice color and everything.
Well, it's for the baking show. Come on.
That's great though.
But yeah, it's very easy to do it. And you do say in your notes on your recipe on Instagram, and we will post the recipe too, that the batter is thick, and it is very thick.
It's very thick. Yeah. You can't be afraid of that. It's very, very thick.
But that's what makes it so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's hard to spread. That's the only trick with this cake, is it's a little hard to spread. And it's different. It'll be different because I bake it in a tube pan usually because it's easier. Yeah. So when you do it in the tube pan, you do batter, chips, and the chips are on top. But when you do it in the bundt, you have to do the opposite. You have to do chips, batter, chips, batter.
Okay. So this is done. And it smells so good.
It actually is one of those cake batters that tastes really good raw. Like, I know we're not supposed to eat raw batter, but if you like stick your finger in it and taste it,
I'll be saving some.
Sour cream, it actually tastes really good.
Yeah. So I feel like you would like this spatula. My friend gave it to me. Live, love, bake.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So Lynda mentioned, for those of you guys watching at home, that she bakes it in a tube pan, which is the Tillie way to do it. I can't find my tube pan this morning. I don't know.
Yeah. So tube pans are it's interesting. My daughter, this is a weird thing. So for Rosh Hashanah, she was in Washington, D.C., and I was here. And at the same time, we were baking the same cake that I had not given her the recipe for. Like, she just found, it's like the Jewish apple cake with the oil and the orange juice in the batter, right? And so we were baking the same cake, but she had a bundt pan and I had a tube pan, because she didn't even know what a tube pan was, even though she's like getting pretty good at this. I think a lot of people don't really use tube pans so much anymore. They don't. It's not a popular thing, but they're actually great because they make it pretty easy to do those kinds of coffee cakes.
Yes, I have a tube pan somewhere. I have to find it. When we redid our kitchen, everything was all over the place. But I used to use the tube pan a lot, which is actually the one thing my mom did make to make angel food cake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So since I'm doing it in a bundt, did I have to grease the bundt pan, by the way?
Yes, you should definitely
spray
it or grease it or something.
I'm gonna spray
it. I butter the tube pan, but if you spray, I'm sure it'll work out.
I'm gonna spray it. You guys are really getting in. You're seeing my whole kitchen here. Usually I have it all prepared. So, all right, I'm gonna spray it. And then you said chocolate chips first, or
you want the chips to be on top.
Okay. So we're going to do that. So you do a layer of the topping and then a layer of the
batter. And then a layer of the topping and a layer of the batter. Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God. So fun and so good. I'm sure everyone can tell how good this is.
I'm gonna take mine out of like, so if I take mine out of the tube pan, like that's why the tube pan's easy, because and then you get like, so the chocolate's on top, but with the bundt, since you flip it, it'll be a different thing. The only thing with the tube pan is you have to like get it out of the thing.
Yes. That makes it a little tricky. Do you happen to know where Tillie got the recipe from? Or
I don't know, but like this is not an unusual recipe.
I know. My aunt Jo makes a sour cream coffee cake that's a little bit like this.
Yeah, it's like I have this recipe book. I'll see if I can find it while we're talking. That my mom got me a long time ago, and I think she got it at one of those like flea markets in Florida. Mm-hmm. And it's just like a sisterhood cookbook. Mm-hmm. So it's like all those recipes. It has the Jewish apple cake recipe. It has a similar recipe to this. Mm-hmm. So then I got out, and it got out pretty nicely.
Oh, that looks so good.
That's what it looks like.
I'll post a picture of mine. Mine will look different, obviously, because of the bundt and because I'm gonna have to flip it.
So that sisterhood cookbook has all these recipes that are so similar. Like, you know, the recipe for like a blintz souffle with the frozen blintzes, and it has like all of those recipes in it, which are all like really great recipes to make, you know, like they all still work.
So
they're not recipes, but they all still work.
Well, I like this recipe because obviously it's from Tillie, and you've kind of made it famous for so many people, and I love the story behind it and your writing and all of that. But I will say I was given a recipe. I think it was my sister-in-law who gave it to me. It was and it's a bundt cake similar to this. You can do it in chocolate or vanilla, and it is from this cookbook called The Cake Doctor.
Oh, fun.
So basically what the Cake Doctor does is he or she does takes you can make this cake with a mix and doctor it up.
Yeah, that's like a very 1970s thing, like where you would take the mix and then you add a thing of pistachio pudding and you have the cream cake that a lot of people love, or you add like rum and whatever, you know, other things, and you just like doctor up all
doctor it up. So that was that version, and it's like this. It has, you know, but you use a cake mix. So I mean, is that cheating? I don't know. I don't think it's cheating. But you add sour cream, or you add pudding, or you add something like this. I'm just smoothing this all out.
Yeah. I love the one with the pistachio pudding.
Yeah,
and it's clean and it's really good. Wait, I'm gonna see if I can find my. It's right here. This sisterhood cookbook that I have.
Okay.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, so it's called Melting Pot Memories.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just like this laminated thing, but it's so great. And it has all of these, like, I don't even know. Like, one recipe is Maryland's chicken.
Right, Maryland. Yeah.
It had like a bottle of 1890 French dressing, which I don't know if that's around anymore. But there's like, you know, all these fun kind of just fun things. It has a recipe for matzo balls and I don't know, veal marengo. I don't know what veal.
I love those kind of cookbooks. I have one that was a fundraiser for something in our town, and I've talked to Jenna offline about this. Maybe I'm thinking of doing maybe like a Blaze Baking with Rach cookbook.
Oh, that'd be great.
A compilation of a lot of the recipes I've done on the show, and so if anybody likes that idea, let me know, and I'll,
yeah, that'd be great.
So the Tillie cake could be in there with like, you know, the magnolia brownies or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's really fun.
Permission from everybody. I think that'd be fun. So I preheated my oven to 350.
Okay.
And I'm just going to put this in. Was it for 45 minutes?
45 minutes, yeah.
I mean, it's so easy. I'm going to put this in right now. So I'll be so excited for
it's going to smell so good I baked mine this morning, and my husband came downstairs and he was like, smells like Tillie cake. It's the cinnamon with the chocolate that makes it smell so good.
It is the cinnamon. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, I'm putting it on for 45 minutes. Sorry to be off camera. I need a better set, right? There's your dog. Yep. It's so cute. So So I mentioned before that you've been sort of busy on the book tour. Have you had fun with events for?
Oh, it's been so much fun. Yeah, it's been really great. I was in Indiana, and I mean, I've never been to Indiana. It was the most amazing event for the Carmel Clay Library fundraiser. It was like this 2-day thing with 6 authors, and that was so much fun. And I just got back from Rochester. They did an event. So I was with Susan Call, which was great. And it was a chocolate and wine thing. So that was really fun because they had, after we talked about the books, they had chocolate and wine and everything. So you can't really go wrong with that. That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
And we go to Texas this week. I have New Jersey. I'll be actually, for people who are around New Jersey, I'll be for the Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey. I'll be there this week. And then that's on Tuesday. And then Wednesday I go to Texas.
Nice. Well, our viewers can check out Lynda's website where she has a list of her events. And also some really good book club questions, because I think the Matchmaker's Gift is a great book club selection.
It's a fun book club thing. Yeah. I just Zoomed with the book club the other night, and they were really fun.
So cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. And I will do that. So people can always like email me through, my email's on my website. It's just my name, Lynda Loigman at gmail.com. But they can email me, and the next November and December are pretty, November is really busy, but December starts to slow down. And I do try to Zoom with book clubs if I'm around and if I can, because it's really fun.
You know what? For the book clubs, they can make the Tillie Cake, serve it at the book club.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah.
And talk to Lynda. That must have been so interesting because, I mean, the life of an author, it's like you were in lockdown writing this book with your daughter home and her roommate. It's like, and now you're sort of out in the world. That must be.
It's really wonderful. I was really careful for a long time. So this, like, I haven't been with people without a mask on like this. Like, it's been like a big, I had my bivalent booster, and then 10 days later my book came out, and so the timing was good. But yeah, I've been out, and it's been so nice seeing people. My husband just walked in. He's barking.
We all have lives. My husband walked in a little bit before.
Yeah.
And we're so excited to have Lynda. Oh, good. You're going.
Winston, honey, can you just go grab them? Okay.
What happens on a Saturday? I totally get it.
I know. What can we do?
So I'm sure, obviously, you're very busy with the book tour for Matchmaker's Gift, and follow Lynda on Instagram. Everybody can see all the cool things she's doing. But are you writing your next book now, or what stages are you?
Yeah, I'm about halfway done with it. It's a little hard to find time right now, but I'm trying really. If I stay away from a book for too long, it's really difficult to get back into it. So I try every day, even when I'm away, to like sit with it for a while. Even if I'm not getting so many words written, I try to spend time with the characters and try to figure out what I'm doing. So yeah, it's about halfway done. It's due in March, so I have to finish it. And like I said, it's inspired by my husband's grandmother, and there's food in it for sure. There's some chicken soup, which may or may not have like a little, there's a thread of magic, and there's lots of
realism. Yeah,
lots of fun things. There's maybe a love potion that goes very wrong.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a really fun story. I think people who like the Matchmaker's Gift will really like it, because it's a similar tone. It's historical, but there's a little bit of romance, and there's a little bit of magical realism. So it's got all the things.
One of the things I loved about it too, there was definitely like a feminist take on it, right?
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. That really came a bunch of different things, but when my daughter came home with a roommate, we were talking about all the issues that young women face, like a lot, which that wasn't happening before they came home. We weren't having those conversations, around the dinner table. And they are very like bright, very ambitious young women. And so, there was a lot of conversation about that. And that was very much on my mind when I was writing the story. And just in the mind, I think, of everybody, at this point in our lives. So that, Sarah is really like fighting against all these male matchmakers who dominate her neighborhood and dominate the profession. Because one of the things I learned, we didn't talk about the research, but one of the things that I really learned was, like, at that time, in New York in 1910, there were like 5,000 professional matchmakers in New York, and the bulk of them were men. So she's fighting that. She's fighting, all the men who resent her for having this gift that allows her to do her job better than they can do it, which resonates for a lot of people.
I was gonna say you could replace that with
anything,
anything,
anything, and any time period, right? Any time period at all, yeah. And in the next book, truly, like, this is a woman who, there were not very many female pharmacists at that time. Like, my husband's grandmother was a real great-grandmother. Sorry, not grandmother, great-grandmother. Was like, she was a real trailblazer,
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to read that. Maybe you'll come back on and we'll make chicken soup or something.
Yeah, we can make chicken soup.
Yeah. We just posted a little while ago. If any of our viewers have any questions, please post them. And I saw one did come up, which, sorry, we were talking about other stuff. I think it was about if Tillie had a kosher version of this. Was that it? Or like a non-dairy or?
No, for a non-dairy cake, I would say to make that apple cake, which that's like a great parve kind of cake. The apple cake. I have the recipe. I'll post the recipe.
We'll post it, yeah. Because it's funny. Last week we interviewed Shannon Sarna, who was talking about an apple cake as well. That's funny. Her new book was Modern Jewish Baking.
Yeah, this one, like with the sour cream, you can substitute yogurt, like we said, but it's really a dairy. It's really a dairy cake. It's actually a cake that's really good for like a break fast, because break fast is so often dairy, Right. But my grandmother didn't keep kosher. I mean, she may have when she was very little, but it's one of the interesting things. Like when I wrote my first book, The Two Family House, that was really inspired a lot by my mother's home growing up. She grew up in Brooklyn in a two-family house, and she was upstairs with her two sisters and my grandmother's brother lived downstairs, and he also had 3 girls. So there were all these girls, 6 cousins growing up together. But when I wrote that book, I didn't talk about them being kosher or any of those things, because they weren't. Like, they just weren't. And I think a lot of people, that was a comment that I got from some people, like that book wasn't Jewish enough somehow, because they weren't observant, but they weren't. Like, they just weren't. And so a lot of people weren't, but people don't really remember that. Like, people wanted to assimilate, they were not.
Podcast all about that, actually. Yeah, it's true. All right, we have a question here. What was the most surprising piece of research that you uncovered during your research for
I was lucky to meet Anissa when I went to South Carolina. So she was
awesome.
She was so, wait, not South Carolina, Atlanta. Sorry, I'm getting all my places mixed up. In Atlanta, she was so great, and she came. The thing that surprised me most really was that bit about the Met, like that there were all those matchmakers, that there were so many of them, and that they were men. That was really surprising to me. What else was really, that blew me away. I could not believe that. And I guess also, it's just like the idea of a bet din, the religious court. I knew about a religious court. A bet din is like literally a rabbinical court. I knew about it, but I didn't really think about it before. And so, like, people would bring people in front of a court of rabbis, and it wasn't enforceable under like the rule of law of like the state or the country, but like it was the court of public opinion, and it could get you in a lot of trouble. And so I thought that was really interesting.
As a follow-up to that about the research, I'm just curious, how did you actually do the research during COVID? Like, did you go down to the Lower East Side, or did you do mostly from home?
I didn't, because it was really in that time when I would never have gone into the city. It was like very early days.
Right.
But I just, online, like a lot of things. Oh, Anissa lives in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, but I met her in Atlanta. A lot of things were online. So it was like the New York Public Library, the Tenement Museum, Museum of Jewish History, all the museum at Eldridge Street. They all had a lot of great stuff online. And I got a lot of books too. I ordered so many books from Amazon. And then there's this thing online called Abe's Books, which is like, just like trying to find these very old, like, there's a book I have called Shulam the Shadchan, which is like this book from, I don't even know when, like 1905. And it's a funny novel about a matchmaker, and like just these funny things, these interesting stories. I just got a lot of books about tenement life on the Lower East Side, Jewish life in New York at that time. So there were I read a lot of memoirs about life on the Lower East Side. There was someone called The Button Thief that was really great. So it was just interesting.
Well, it is true. By the way, Mindy just posted before that she was singing Matchmaker, Matchmaker while reading this. I was too. Yeah. Yeah. And I think your book kind of, went against the stereotype of like the old matchmaker and fiddler on the roof.
Right. Yeah. I didn't want to write about Yenta. That was not going to be the story. She's very, very different. Yeah. And it's also like, I think when I knew I was going to write this book, my problem was that I don't write romance and I write historical fiction. So like, it is really, truly historical. Like there are these romantic elements to it, and the cover looks much more romantic than not, but it's not like a classic romance book.
It's a little bit, it is historical fiction. Yeah. There is love story and there's a little realism. It's a little magical realism.
There's a lot of different elements.
Yeah.
So it makes fun. Then I just see Lynda's next book sounds great. When is it coming out? It'll probably come out in September of 2024. So so it'll be 2 years between books. I'm not really a book a year person, but I'm trying to be a book every 2 years because I want to just sort of have more momentum.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to get it done then. So next fall, the paperback for Matchmaker will come out.
Okay. Well, then you'll have to do a lot of promotion about that. And you'll have to.
Paperback promotion is not as intense, it's just, but you do sometimes reach audiences that you don't reach otherwise.
We were just talking about this before we went online. What are you reading? Because for those of you that don't follow Lynda, she's in a wonderful group called the Thursday Authors. Is it Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday Authors, because we all Zoom together every Thursday during COVID. So we call it the Thursday Authors. So on Fridays we post our Friday reads, and my Friday reads, which I just finished. I finished it actually right before Friday. Is Susan Call's book because I was with her. It's called Bookish People. It's so funny. It's a book set in a bookstore, and it's fantastic. Just got so many like wacky characters and shenanigans, and it's just like one of those really fun books to read. And then let's see, Lauren Belfer's book, Ashton Hall. She had given it to me, and then I did an event with her. I just saw her again, and I feel terrible because I haven't had time to read it yet, but I just started that book now. So I'm excited. It's really good. It's very rich, and she's just a beautiful writer. So that's really fun.
Well, I appreciate all your recommendations on Instagram. And I love the story of the Thursday Authors, how you Zoomed during COVID and how it sort of really got you.
We were like every Thursday without fail for like a year and a half. And then like we started to ease off a little bit as people started to do things and get back out into the world and everything. But I mean, really, truly, like every single Thursday, like at 5 o'clock on the dot, 5 to 6 on Thursdays, we were together because, if we weren't together, we were going to really lose it, I think.
And I'm sure it was fun. And also you made each other accountable or you got ideas from each other. I mean, just
just nice also. I mean, it's really nice to have people to run things by, like when you're a writer, it's a really strange business and you don't get a lot of information. And so it's so nice to say, is this normal? Right? Like, is this normal? Is this how this works? Like, what are we doing? So it's just nice to have other people to share their experiences.
Yeah. What cocktails were on the weekly Zoom?
Definitely drinking cocktails in the beginning.
Like, it was 5 o'clock.
Yeah. In the beginning, everybody had a glass of wine and stuff. But then, I drank so much during COVID. Like I'm kind of like on a dry, like I'm trying not to drink right now because I just can't do that anymore. Like I can't have a glass of wine. I really can't have even just a glass of wine every day. Like it's too much. It just sits in my body. So I'm old, so I can't do that. So yeah, but in the beginning we definitely did. We were always having wine.
I had a weekly Zoom with my group of 8 college friends for a year and a half.
That's so nice.
It was Thursday nights, and we really stuck to it. And we always said it got us through it.
Yeah. So it was. Thank goodness for Zoom.
It was great. One night we all wore our wedding dresses.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
We just had fun. It was great. And now we still text about book recommendations a lot. If anyone's
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have my wedding dress here. I haven't pulled it out to put it on. I don't think it would fit so well. Like,
yeah, it was tight. It was
yeah, it would not zip up the back I think it had like all these little buttons, so I don't think it would really button up the back.
But Anissa wants to know, where is your favorite place to write?
I write right there.
There we go.
My kitchen table. I pretty much right there. I have an office-ish area upstairs, which is the room over the garage that we like. You sort of walk through it to get to a guest room, so it's not so private. But I have a desk set up there. But so I have all my books there, and I do a lot of Zooms from there. I did this Zoom from the kitchen because obviously we're big.
I love seeing your kitchen.
But yeah. I do a lot of times. I do Zooms from there, and it's sort of like I know that place is going to be neat, and it's just and I have my stuff there. But I don't tend to write there that much. I really write a lot on my kitchen table.
Yeah, I do a lot of work in my kitchen too at the island, actually, because I like the space. It's a different change. And so I'm glad we got to see where you write. I'm thinking of, we were talking before about Annabelle's book, Nora Goes Off Script, because one of my favorite parts about that book is the character is a writer. We're recommending other books. And she writes in this lovely tea house in her bathroom. And I'm like, I want a tea house.
I know. We all want a tea house, right?
Everyone wants a tea house. So if I could have something like that. And she also, after her writing, her character, Nora, wrote she would take a nap, which sounds good.
Yeah, I know. That sounds really nice. Or a she shed or something.
Yeah. Okay, we want to know. I'm curious about this too. Are you more of a cook or a baker?
I mean, I think it's kind of 50-50. I'm not someone who like bakes all the time. And I think part of that is my daughter's gluten-free.
Okay.
And my son honestly prefers like a pack of Oreos to homemade things. He does not like homemade baked goods. I don't know. It's kind of a heartbreak. But he just likes like processed cookies better than like homemade things. So I don't tend to bake really all that much. My husband loves baked goods. For holidays, I go all out for holidays. For holidays, like for Thanksgiving that's coming up, I will bake a pumpkin cheesecake, and I will bake like 2 different pies from scratch, and I will bake probably a Tillie Cake. Like when I have people over, a lot of people, I'll do a lot.
Maybe I'll make a Tillie Cake for Thanksgiving.
Good. It's a good like all around cake. It's nice the next day. You know, if you have guests coming, it's like nice with coffee the next day and stuff.
Yeah. We're getting so many good questions. We probably have time for like 2 more. What do you love about historical fiction?
I mean, my sweet spot for writing is always the past. Like I don't love writing in the present. But I love just writing. I love being able to use language and expressions that we don't use anymore. I love that part. But I also love just that you get to learn something. You know, you just sort of fall into a different world. And it's not just a writing project. It's also like a research project too. And a lot of what you learn, you don't get to use, you don't get to put in the book. But it keeps you mentally like sharp, you know, to have that other aspect to the writing, because it's like being in school again, you know, so it keeps your brain sharp. And I love that. And I love just learning.
I was a history major, so I totally get that. Yeah. But what's interesting about the Matchmaker's Gift is that, you know, there was Sarah's storyline in 1910 and Abby's, which is not modern day, but it is 1990s. So was that challenging or fun or exciting to write in the 2 different timelines? And how did you actually do it? Did you write one? Like, how did you go back and forth?
So Rachel, I will tell you, 1994 is considered historical fiction.
I know. I was thinking that for our kids, it is.
Yes.
My life. Yeah.
I know, that was our life. So anyway, in 1994, I was a first-year lawyer, and Abby is as well. So that was really actually the fact that I lived through that time period was really helpful, because I still had to do a lot of research about, like, I was researching the celebrity divorces of that time period and different things. There's a scene at Shakespeare in the Park, and I wanted to know like what was being put up at Shakespeare in the Park then, and the supermodels of the 90s, they factor into the book, and fashion and just all that stuff. But at least I knew sort of what I was looking for because I did live through it. So that made it fun. This was my first dual timeline book. So I hadn't written one before. It was kind of like writing 2 separate books. So it was sort of more work in a way than writing just one story. Because there had to be 2 separate arcs for the 2 main characters. It's not, sometimes people think that this book, if you hear it's a grandmother and granddaughter, there are a lot of books where there's like a granddaughter and the book is mostly in the present, and then she finds a letter, or she finds a piece of jewelry, or she finds something, and then it's like little flashbacks to the past. But this book is a true dual timeline. So they each have a very distinct separate arc, separate story. And I wrote it in the order that you read it. I don't, like, I can't write one and then the other. I have to write it. I always write whatever book I'm writing.
That makes sense.
Read it. Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway that I just got is that the 1990s is historical fiction.
I know. Sorry for clearing that. And
That's okay. That makes sense. No, well, for those of you who haven't read it, definitely check out The Matchmaker's Gift. It's a great book. It makes a great holiday gift.
It's for Hanukkah.
Yeah, definitely for Hanukkah, for sure. I'm so glad you came back to the place to bake with us, because now we will all know about the Tillie Cake. Yeah.
Yeah. Tillie is somewhere smiling down on everybody who bakes a Tillie Cake, for sure.
And I didn't even know this. Obviously, we booked this a long time ago, that this was on your mom's yard site. So maybe there's some magical, mystical stuff going on with that. I think, I always like stuff like that. I really appreciate it. And good luck with all your events and your tours. And I just want to remind our viewers that we're going to be talking about how to write a novel in 20 pies in a few more weeks. And it's perfect. I think it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Oh, perfect.
Everybody. Yeah. And I have to do a little shout out this week, because on Tuesday, Ina Garten's new book, Go To Dinners, came out.
That's awesome.
Mine arrived on Tuesday in the mail from my Aunt Jo, who has given me all my Ina books. So Ina's friends, if you're watching, come bake with us. We'll talk in 2023 about that.
Okay, great. My dog is like trying. I thought I was going to pick him up and show him to everybody, because he's like looking for attention, but I'm going to try to. Right. Okay. Yep, there he is.
What's his name?
Winston.
Winston. Hi, Winston. I've seen pictures of him on Instagram. He's adorable. Hi, Winston.
Yeah, there's Winston.
Well, last week when I interviewed Shannon Sarter, he was totally on the screen with us. It was cute.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will sign off now. Thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Lynda, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was so fun to bake with you, and I hope your Tillie Cake comes out good.
Oh, I can't wait. I'll post pictures later. Thanks everybody for watching. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.